Jocko, have you ever had a person you couldn't get through to? Someone that you couldn't manipulate? Then what? What do you do when you can't get through?
Well, yeah, of course. I've had people that I could not get through to. And generally speaking, these people are like level 12 arrogance. That's what they are. Giant ego. That's what causes this. There was quite a few SEAL leaders that I dealt with. I shouldn't say quite a few. There were several SEAL leaders that I dealt with that were like that, and of several business leaders that I've dealt with that were like that. In podcast number 5, I read that counseling letter, corrective measures, to a guy that was really arrogant. And despite that letter, he did not change, and he got fired. So what do you do when you got someone that you can't get through to? You fire them. That's and here's what you got to do is what makes that tricky is that some people, and this will make people freak out. There's some people that they're such good performers that even though they're slightly negative on maybe their team participation, but they're so good that it offsets their negativity. Right? And that happens. It happens. You know what happens with salespeople?
Yeah.
Salespeople are, in order to be in a sales position, you got to be confident, you got to be aggressive, you got to be somewhat arrogant, right? You got to believe in yourself. And so some salespeople take that to the extreme where they're just like, I don't need to listen to what you're telling me the new procedures are. Yeah. Screw that. I'm the one that's doing the big dollars over here. How about you follow my procedures, boys? Right? So that happens. Yep. Well, then what you got to do is you got to look, is this guy producing so well? Now, that can create problems within the team. And you have to balance those things. Is this guy, is the negativity that he's creating offset by the awesome productivity that he's doing? And furthermore, if the guy's that good, hey, maybe we should be modeling some things after them. I got no problem with that. If you're the best performer, cool. I want to imitate you. I want to get my people to imitate you. So that happens. The other place where you might see it, a similar situation, is a leader that does really good with the relationships down the chain of command, for instance, but really has bad relations up the chain of command. So again, you got to ask yourself, okay, if I fire this leader, how many of these people that he has great relationships are now going to leave, and what kind of detriment is that to the team? That can also happen with someone that treats their people like crap, but up the chain of command, everyone thinks he's great. And he's getting the mission done, by the way, right? He's a slave driver, and he's creating total animosity between him and his team, but he's accomplishing the mission. So now what do you do? There's a risk. Everyone could quit. There's risk. You could fire him, and now you don't accomplish the mission anymore. This is why leadership is hard, and this is why you have to balance everything. You have to balance those things. But talked about it a bunch of times. If you get someone, you coach them, you mentor them, you do everything you can, you flank them, you do jujitsu, mental jujitsu on them, you try and get them squared away, and eventually, if you can't, you weigh against, how it's going to affect the situation, and then in many cases, you got to let them go. And we saw plenty of SEALs get fired from leadership positions, and same thing with, obviously we work with consulting businesses. We see all kinds of people getting fired because they're either not capable of doing their job, they're too arrogant, and they don't recognize that things are going sideways, and they're just thinking that they're doing everything perfect. No, that's not going to work out well for you.
Yeah, what did, I think it was Leif. He said, someone asked him, when do you know? When's that line where it's like when it's time to fire someone?
Yep.
And he was like, in a nutshell, there's a lot to it, but in a nutshell, which I thought was dope. He said it's you're at that point where you fire someone when you don't feel bad about it.
Right.
So it's like, you tried everything.
You've tried everything, and there's also people, which there's some validity to this, that say the first time you think you should fire someone, you should fire them. That's the other end of the spectrum, right? And what that means is when you're looking at someone and you're going, man, okay, I can save them, I can help them. That's the kind of advice you give to someone that's got a maternal instinct, right? That you meet someone, hey, I know this guy's just a good guy, and everyone on my team is great, and everyone's going to do a great job. You can't tell that person what Leif and I normally tell people, which is when you feel good about it, you should fire them. because that person will never feel good about firing anybody. Just about.
Oh, okay.
You see what I'm saying? Because
yes,
he just, this guy, I know he's going to make it. I know he's going to come around.
Right.
And then they start playing the extreme ownership game.
Yeah.
Which is, if I would have given Echo a better direction, he would have been able to do this. It's my fault.
Yeah.
I've given Echo 17 iterations of this, and he still didn't complete it correctly. He's fired. That's the way it works, right? There's a balance.
So that spectrum of being within the confines of being justified, firing somebody, a certain type of person, you got to say when you don't feel bad about it.
Right. Right.
I mean, that's like a fire heavy type dude.
Right. But there's also someone, the reason you shouldn't feel bad about it is because I've done everything I can do to help you, which takes work. It takes effort. It takes tact. It takes hard conversations, because it's hard for me to go and say, Echo, I've been looking at your videos lately, and they're not really what we're looking for, right? I don't want to say that to you. It's uncomfortable, and we're kind of like, we want to get along. So instead, I'm like, yeah, Echo, that video is good, man. Yeah, it's good, but I'm not telling you the truth. And then over time, our videos aren't looking good enough, and eventually I say, you know what? No one's buying our videos anymore, and we haven't gotten any new contracts. So guess what? I'm going to have to let you go. And you're like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? You said all the videos I made were good. Now you're firing me? Maybe you need to become a better salesperson. Right?
Yeah.
Whereas if I had the hard conversation early and said, hey, Echo, I know you're creative and I appreciate that, but we also need to get the message across for our clients. I'm obviously fabricating a business where we're making videos for clients. Yeah. Which I know we don't really do a lot of anymore. Occasionally you do it. But yeah, you got to have the hard conversations earlier. If I'm the type of person that doesn't like to have the hard conversations, once again, I never feel good about it because I never gave you any advice. So it always feels bad for me to fire someone.
Yeah.
But if you're following good leadership tactics, then absolutely true. When you get to a point where you got to fire somebody, you won't feel bad about it because you've done everything you can. You've coached them, mentored them, and you know that if you keep them on board, you are negatively impacting your team, which is bad.
Yeah. And then go down to the other side of the spectrum, still within the confines of being justified in firing somebody, by the way. But on the other side of the spectrum, you get, what do you call the maternal instinct type person? Instinct. The person who can, like, they're just super hard on themselves, maybe, or they're, like, I even if you did do everything you can, you're still like, I could have done more, so it's my fault, not his.
I feel like I let them down as a leader.
Yeah.
You gave them 17 counseling chits.
Yeah.
They don't belong here.
Yeah.
They can't do their job. Stop.
Yeah, meanwhile, they're going home laughing at you or whatever. But you get that kind of personality. So it's kind of like how you say you got to balance it. You got to be like, okay, you got to recognize, okay, what kind of person am I, or what kind of person is this other person kind of thing. And if they're those maternal, instinctual, for lack of a better way of putting it, person, then what was it? The first time you feel like you should fire him, you should fire him. Right. You hang out on that side of the spectrum. You got to.
Yep.